Hey, Freight Pod listeners. Before we get started today, let's do a quick shout out to our sponsor, Rapido Solutions Group. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent to scale efficiently and deliver superior customer service. Rapido works with businesses from all sides of the logistics industry. This includes brokers, carriers, and logistics software companies. Rapido builds out teams with roles across customer and carrier sales and support, back office administration, and technology services. The team at Rapido knows logistics and people. It's what sets them apart. Rapido is driven by an inside knowledge of how to recruit, hire, and train within the industry, and a passion to build better solutions for success. The team is led by CEO Danny Frisco and COO Roberto Acaza, two guys I've worked with from my earliest days in the industry at Coyote. I have a long history with them and I trust them. I've even been a customer of theirs at Molo, and let me tell you, they made our business better. In the current market where everyone's trying to do more with less and save money, solutions like Rapido are a great place to start. To learn more, check them out at gorapido.com. That's gorapido.com. Welcome back to another episode of the Freight Pod. I'm your host, Andrew Silver, joined today by a very special guest, always a special guest. Today's extra special, per usual. This is Hannah Testani, CEO of Intelligent Audit, and we are going to learn about your story, her story, and her business. So Hannah, how are you?
I like the extra special. I don't know why you had to backtrack that one, but I'm great. It's exciting to be here, exciting to talk to you, and exciting to talk to all your listeners.
The extra special, I need to stop doing this, but every single episode I open the same way and I say we've got a special guest and then I say it's extra special. And I guess by doing it the same every time, it makes them all not extra special. I should change up the pace. I don't know. The whole starting thing, I just like to get a conversation going. I don't really feel like I know how to run a podcast because I don't feel like it's as much a podcast as much as like, hey, just two people talking. And so the beginning and end, I always struggle with.
I thought you did great today.
Thank you. Have you done podcasts before?
I've been an attendee. I have never hosted a podcast. So,
okay.
But I could small talk all day. So we'll see. Maybe it's my next gig.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think my recommendation would be to keep running a business before entering a podcast. But if you ever find yourself kicked to the curb with nothing else to do, maybe contemplate the podcast.
Okay, fair. I'll try and keep the day job.
Yep. Smart. So speaking of the day job, how did you find yourself in this day job? Like, how did you get into this industry? What brought you here?
Really interesting story. So I'll say I had zero interest in supply chain, zero interest in tech. I wanted to be CEO of Lehman Brothers. So I went to Carnegie Mellon, I studied finance, went to work at Goldman Sachs, and it was 2008. And at that point, everything around me was, crashing down. So EMA went under, Bear Stearns went under. Goldman seemed protected, but everyone around me, all my friends from college, all their banks, whether it was Citibank, Morgan Stanley, I mean, it just didn't seem like a great time to go into finance. My father founded Intelligent Audit. Granted, at that point, it was 3 employees, all who were double my age and not really the workplace that I was expecting to go out of after leaving college. But it was an interesting time, interesting opportunity. I had interned through college and kind of worked full time since I was like 17 in the space. So I knew it. And my mentality was, let me try it for a year and see if I like it. And if not, I'll go back to finance. And a month in, I hated it. I called my boss at Goldman. I was like, I'm ready to come back. Like, I'll do any role. Like, put me in the back office. I just can't. I can't be here. I can't work with people who are like in their 50s and is in an industry that is like so boring.
This is when you're like 22?
21. I graduated college. I just graduated college when I was 20. So I was like fresh out of college. Senior year, all you're doing is partying and having fun and living your best life. And then 1 month later, I'm going to an office with 3 people and, listening to them talk about chess. So really not what I was wanting or expecting. But I stuck around, and it was interesting because, my husband, at that point we were just, dating, but he went to Citibank, and he was in investment capacity, and he started to get calls from the founder of XPO. So Brad Jacobs was looking to start up XPO, and he had called me, and he was like, "There's this guy that created a waste management company, and he's trying to get capital from Citi. I don't think we're going to do it, but seems like the industry is building momentum." And then he called me a month later, and he was like, "This company, like his bookstore, Amazon, is getting into e-commerce. What do you think about Amazon competing with UPS and FedEx?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." But the point is that the momentum started to build up, and um, I was really lucky that I was in a job where it was engineers and then me. I can do a tiny bit of engineering, but it allowed me to really explore everything. So I didn't have shackles where I had to do the same job in a repetitive way. I was kind of able to do a lot. And
And
no,
this was, sorry, just to confirm, when you say this time when you were doing a little bit of engineering but didn't have shackles, you were working at that time at Goldman, or
no,
this was when you
intelligent
were
audit.
at Intelligent Audit? So this was
Yeah.
when you were, okay, keep going
Like a
then. Just want to
baby,
clarify.
total baby. Um, and I got exposed to a lot, and I just loved it. No 2 days were the same. And, there was a lot of opportunities. Our business was evolving tremendously. And, frankly, there was just so much opportunity that I loved it.
When your father started this company, what was the idea for what he was trying to accomplish?
So Warner Music Group and Warner Home Video, at that point, when people used to buy cassettes and DVDs, were huge organizations. He supported them in their warehouses to create order management systems, and that was his legacy job. That business was bought, and he was basically a consultant, and they came to him and they said, "I have all of these shipments that I'm shipping out to various locations. They won't pay me until I can prove to them that the tracking numbers were delivered and I have the proof of delivery." And the beauty of that is the original product that we created was able to take mass amounts of shipments and automatically track them, capture the POD, and then deliver them back to the customer in automated fashion so they can get paid. Then they quickly came back and said, "Well, actually, that's great, but if they're delivered past the commitment time, go and get me a refund." And, the rest is kind of history. But it was really originally all about taking mass amounts of parcel shipments and tracking them before, the dot-com bubble. So that allowed us to create from the beginning a solution that was indexed well, that can manage at scale. And if our first customer was like a customer that shipped a couple hundred shipments a day, we would never be where we are today, where we have customers who ship over 100 million shipments a year. So that scale was so important. And frankly, the best thing about engineers is they're lazy. So they want to do something once and then never do it again. Versus like, I'm a hard worker. Like, I'll do the same thing all the time. Like, show me an Excel function and I'll click it. Engineers won't do that. So the fact that it came through.
By lazy, you mean like they want to find the most efficient way to do something and do it that way and then not have to go again,
Yeah,
versus you and I who are like, we'll just bang our head against the wall endlessly and keep doing the same thing.
that's like Steve Jobs said. He's like, find really smart, lazy people, and they'll automate everyone's workflows because they don't want to do it. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing every day? Hold on, I'll automate this and make it so that you can go outside and do what you want to do."
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so you come into this business, 21 years old, not that interested, the CEO's daughter. What was the next few years like as you kind of came into the business and started to kind of find your way?
Yeah. So at the company, we were always the technology backend for a lot of different partners, which is interesting because our industry is so incestuous. There's a lot of companies and competitors that also do business together. I don't know if you've noticed that, but that was just our
Mhm.
experience. So, we were always at the back end tech arm, and then a lot of our competitors were using our product. So what that meant is we didn't sell directly to customers. We went through parties and third-party channels. So really who I was working with was all of those third-party channels, and they had no interest in working with me. So there was a lot of friction there for the first several years. They were like, who's this new child coming in? And like, why would I bring her into a sales meeting, or why do I need her? So the first few years was me just trying to prove myself to all of these partners that, like, it's not a win-loss. Like, I want to help you win more, and you winning is me winning. So like, we're all in this together. But that was definitely contentious, and probably what set me back originally, because I wanted to be able to do more in terms of shake our customers' hands. I wanted to understand their pain points. I wanted to go to sales pitches, and a lot of times, everyone was just like, you would be a distraction in the room. Like, we're talking like we're going to a dinner, like we're probably going to a strip club after. Like, there's really no room for you here. Like, we'll just let you know afterwards how it goes, and you'll support them in the back end. But like, let the adults talk, and then you'll come in later.
Okay. Well, how did you navigate that? I mean, that's an interesting kind of challenge. I definitely understand it in our industry, especially, 20 years, 15 years ago, but I'm curious how do you deal with that?
So it was interesting because my dad is also Eastern European. So he always like dreamt that I would come in and run the business, even though I have an older brother. He was just like, you can come and do this. But he would always dream about that, but he never really felt like it would happen, because he was like, it was never that I'm a woman. It was because he thought I was young and that the industry was not accommodating to young women. So he was like kind of on their side. He was like, use Hannah when you can, and she's here to assist you, but like, I'm here. So like, me being my father. So for the long time, I was in the background. And then I got to a point where, fast forward about 5 years, I was able to learn enough from all of our partners and we were growing. So we were just still about like maybe 15 people at this point. But we were starting to do some of our own direct sales, have our own customers. And we had a few really big sales channels, one of whom actually used our name. So it was Intelligent Audit. They went to trade shows as Intelligent Audit, but they were not actually affiliated with us. They just had the rights to sell our product. So I told my dad, I think we should buy them out, because we want to be able to, for us to grow into the future, we need to have control of our own destiny in terms of sales, in terms of marketing. We need to be able to touch our customers, shake their hands, grow with them. And as long as there's a barrier between us and the end customer, we're never going to be able to be where we need to be. And the good thing about my dad, and he's great, is he was always comfortable letting go of the vine as long as he knew that I would kind of step into those shoes. And he told me, like, if I can go prove myself and I can go close a book of business and, upsell our customers, then it's mine. But to do that, we actually had to go take debt out on the business to buy out those sales channels. And it was very contentious. That being said, we were able to make a great deal for everyone, bought out a few of our biggest sales channels. At that point, over 95% of our revenue was sales channels. So after that transaction, it was majority owned by us. There was still about 25% through partners. But we learned a hard lesson, because 7 months into that acquisition, our biggest customer left. And in terms of, nope.
Related to this, or having nothing to do with the deal?
No, they actually just decided that they could do this in-house through a TMS partnership, which luckily ended up being a disaster for them. But still, that even if they failed, it still was a hit to us. But that made us as a company grow up really, really fast and, take a step back. Until then, we never had a vision. There was no focus. There was no clarity. Everyone just worked on what was urgent, but not what was important. So took a step back and we said, okay, we now need to rebuild and, rebuild entirely. And, we've always been talking to, some investors. And the good thing about investors is some of them are really smart and they'll just give you free advice. And they're doing that because they're trying to prove that, they'd be a good partner for you. So some of them gave us, good ideas in terms of buy out those sales channels, grow up, figure out what you want to do. And also diversify, make sure that you can handle all modes globally and always be technology first. So we stepped back, we sat down, and we created for the first time that vision. Where do we want to be? Ignoring all of our sales channels, we're now adults. We hold our own keys to our success. And that was the biggest opportunity for us because we learned so much. We really have been thoughtful about what success looks like, how we make sure the entire company knows what success looks like. And, it's been focused on sustainable, repeatable, profitable growth. And we have such a good way right now of just enforcing that across the company and getting everyone's to feel bought in, getting everyone to feel like they have control and they're an important cog in the massive wheel for Intelligent Audit. And it's been really transformational.
And when was this roughly?
So we did the deal in 2017. We lost our biggest customer in 2017, the day before Thanksgiving. And we did the big transformation in about 2019.
So was there a moment where when you lost that big customer, it felt like this business might fail?
Oh
we really
yes.
screwed up.
Yes. Rock bottom, which is all about perspective. But yes, there were times where we were like, what are we going to do? How, because we took out debt and, it was a big move. And, my ass was on the line for that because I was the one who was, confident, said we have to do it. I still felt like it was the right thing. But yes, there were days where everyone was like, what's the plan? And how are we going to overcome this? And, there was luck to it, but more than luck, it was just focus. It was so much focus on not feeling like a victim and instead saying, let's figure this shit out.
So smart. It's so easy to let your circumstances kind of overwhelm you, or let outside things that are not in your control overwhelm you. And if you focus on the things that are out of your control, play victim mentality, it's paralyzing. There's no point. There's just nothing you can do about things that are outside of your control. So you might as well focus on what's within your control.
It's such an important life lesson. And it really, that moment has made me realize that almost every time you feel like life is against you, it is an opportunity to excel and just innovate. And that's where innovation comes. I am so confident that if we did not lose that customer, we would be nowhere near where we are today. We'd be a different business because we would never be forced to mature. So, yeah, it's the best thing that's ever happened to us.
Are you looking to grow your brokerage? Are you struggling to land new customers in these challenging market conditions? Look within. So many companies that tender you freight throughout the domestic United States also have business coming out of Mexico. A year ago, I understand why you might not have seen that freight as an opportunity. But today, Cargado exists. And that means any load coming into or out of Mexico is now an opportunity for you to support. In just over a year, I've been able to see Cargado go from ideation to launch to rapid growth. It's amazing to see how many logistics companies have been able to use Cargado to expand into Mexico to grow their business. Cargado is the first platform that connects logistics companies and trucking companies who are moving freight into and out of Mexico. If you move Mexico freight or are planning to, reach out to Cargado today at cargado.com. That's CARGADO.com. Yeah, that's the value of pressure and feeling like your back's against the wall. Because when things are just ho-hum, things are going well, you still got your big customer. It's like there's no pressure to innovate. There's no pressure to make changes. There's no pressure to get bigger or diversify or anything like that because you're like, the bills are paid, we're making a little bit of money, everything's
Yeah.
fine.
Did you ever have that
but it's-
feeling?
Oh yeah. I mean, and part of it is me probably being too emotional in some cases, way too reactive. But like, I feel like I constantly felt like our business was going to fail. I mean, when COVID hit initially, I was like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, this is beyond what we know how to deal with. I mean, when COVID hit 2020, so I was 30 years old. And we were fortunate that, that our business was so heavy in food and bev and grocery retail that like that part of the business boomed. But we had made a conscious decision in that year that we would not adjust our rates on any of our primary business with our customers. And the thought was, if we can hold the line and like keep these rates, we'll stand out for our customers in a way that no one else has. Cause I'm like, nobody will ever forget this period. Like COVID isn't something that's happened before. And hopefully it's not something that will happen again. So like we're looking at like a once in a lifetime situation. And in that once in a lifetime situation, how are our customers going to look at us? And if they look at us and see us standing out against the competition, like that should set us up for life. And that's all great until it's August of 2020 and the rates have tripled and we're sitting here losing money hand over fist. And I'm like pulling I had hair then. I had hair until 3 days ago. I shaved my head on a whim, to be clear.
I was wondering. I
still
was
gotta-
going to ask, but I decided, maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm an open book. I've shaved my head 3 times in my life. And the first 2 were in like some of the darkest moments where I was like really struggling and kind of lost my shit. One of them was COVID. Actually, the beginning of COVID, I shaved my head, and so that spoke to where my head was at. This time was more meant to be like I want to change how I'm thinking about my life right now, and like I've been frustrated by a lot of things, and I've paralyzed myself in my frustration because I've got this non-compete that doesn't really allow me to do much in the industry, and after 2 years, it's really starting to wear me down. And so I'm trying to get this kind of mentality shift. And so the other thing is that I was balding too, which was not helping. And where this showed up the most, because my wife basically told me, you're not getting plugs. You're not going to Turkey. You're not, whatever it is, whether you do it here or there, you're not doing it. You don't need it. Like, I don't care. And I think it's weird that if you would want to do that. And so I'm like, okay, plugs are out. But I play a lot of pickleball, and I play at this facility where there's cameras always on. And so when there are great shots or great plays, people will hit a replay and it sends you the replays after. And so but the cameras are all from up top. And so my buddy would send me these replays after we'd play, and all I could see was the top of my head. I'm 6'3", so most people wouldn't even notice because I had hair all around. But I'd get these replays and I'd see this bald spot, and I'd be like, God, you got to fix that. So here we are.
Do you think you're going to let it grow back in, or this is a new look for you?
I think I'm going to keep it.
I have a feeling you're going to be on a flight to Turkey.
I'm not. That's the only thing my wife has definitively said no to. And she said she likes it. So we'll see.
But it's hard. It gets hard to shave it every day.
So no, it actually isn't. I thought that last time I did this, I got tired of cleaning it up every day, but I just bought this $60 Remington thing that in 30 seconds, I'm over my head and I'm done.
Wow.
So shout out to Remington, whoever, free marketing for you, that your product is great. But back to what we were talking about. There are definitely moments where we felt like the business was going to fail. And I appreciate those moments in hindsight because it does light a fire. My most involved sales moments, like the times where, as my role as CEO was I had a really great partner who was exceptional at managing the day-to-day and managing the people in the day-to-day. And so I had a lot more freedom to kind of move and shake and apply myself wherever I felt. And sales was where I spent a lot of time. but it wasn't always needed for me to be actively involved. But it was in the moments when I felt most desperate and felt most like my back was against the wall. That's when I poured myself into sales. I mean, I'd be sending emails to people at 9 o'clock at night, on Saturdays, on Sundays, like whatever I could. And it lights a fire in a way. There's something about feeling like you're responsible for whether it's 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, or 500 people, that really does force you to mature and figure out how to like get shit done, because there's no one else who can do it. At least that was my mentality, was like, I can't ask someone else to fix this problem for me. I can certainly ask everyone to help me fix the problem, which is what we would do. I mean, rally the troops, as you kind of talked about, getting everybody to understand how important, even if they are a cog, it's an important cog and a very important wheel. So I don't know. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
It's so true. For a long time, my friends would say, like, my life is so easy. I'm my own boss. And I would shoot back and be like, I have 215 families that I'm accountable for, not just one. So, yes, like I could be flexible with my days, but so can anyone on our team. Like, just get your work done. But at the end of the day, I don't just care about what, me and my immediate family has to be, accountable for. It's everyone. And like you care about this. They're your team. And it's not just that you care about them, but you want to make sure that they're all excelling and succeeding. And you have an environment where you can hire smart people, and those smart people have the tools to be successful and can grow. Because at the end of the day, like, the CEO's job, to your point, like, we should not be running the show. That means that we're actually not doing a good job of hiring people around us and being clear with our vision so they can execute. So for us to succeed, we need excellent people everywhere who are motivated to show up, to have control, that can do what needs to be done, and keep them accountable. So yeah, I think that everything you said is spot on, and it's stressful, but it's also, at least for me right now, I'm at the point now where I have such an amazing team all around me that we meet quarterly. I don't know what you did, but we deployed EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating Systems, in 2021. Interestingly, because I called a competitor of ours, a CEO, because I had heard that he had resigned, and I was just like, what's up? What are you doing now? Like, why are you out? And there was some issues of why he had to leave, but he was like, I became an EOS consultant. And I was like, what's EOS? And he explained what it was, and, very basic operating model. But he became our consultant, which was really interesting to have him like in very intimate conversations. Deploying EOS was the best, most revolutionary process that we underwent as a company, that really took us from a good one to a great one. Like, our ability now to just execute like clockwork and keep everyone accountable is made true because of EOS.
What is EOS? You got to give us, can't just tease us with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So EOS it's a way of running a business, although, really, like, everything that I'm about to say are things that you have probably heard of and you probably do. So at a macro level, EOS is about setting a vision. So I equate this to having a boat. So a boat, for example, is going from point A to point B. The vision is to say, here is where the boat is going to. That way, everyone at the company understands that they're on the boat and everyone knows exactly where the boat is going. So that is the clear vision. Then it's having the right people. So making sure you have the right people on the boat and the people are in the right seats. So it's you hear a lot of right person, right seat. So again, think about the boat. You need to have the captain where the captain is. You have to have an excellent people in the various divisions of where you put in the boat, so that the boat gets to where it needs to be. And you might have really smart people, but when they're in the wrong spot, they're just friction from being able to get to where your vision is. Then there's data, which is really important. So taking the emotion out of making decisions, instead saying, from a pure data perspective, So if you were stuck on an island and someone gave you a sheet of paper, what measurables would you have to see on that piece of paper to make sure that the business is operating as it should be? And you need to be really thoughtful of saying what those measurables are. If you can't figure those out, then you'll never know if your business is successful. And when you do, and you know what the right goal is for each data point, then you can keep everyone accountable and make sure everyone is, doing what they need to get to where the boat's going.
Just before you keep going, just so I confirm I understand. So essentially what you're saying, this checklist is basically, if I'm completely removed from the business and I'm not there every day, I'm not talking to customers, I'm not talking to employees, but I have this piece of paper with data points on it, and I have expectations around each of those data points. And as long as each one of these expectations is met at the level it should be a successful business. I don't need to know
Correct.
anything else.
Correct.
Okay. I like that. Yep.
So those are the first three principles. It's vision, people, data. The next one is being able to properly articulate when there is an issue with the right person and solving it. So this is really taking the emotion out of seeing a problem. But again, go back to the boat example. I'm a simple person, so I like that example. You can be on different parts of the boat and you have different responsibilities, but you have to be comfortable, even if your part of the boat isn't as where it should be in terms of operations. You have to be comfortable talking to someone else, being like, let's say they're in charge of food. You're not executing properly. Here's why. Here's a very specific issue that we need to address, and then making sure that you're actually identifying the problem, discussing it, and solving it. And in so many organizations, people are either like too shy to talk about it because they feel like they can't complain or they can't throw rocks out of a glass building. But it's so important to have a comfort and the ability to be able to properly have those conversations, because you need to hear feedback, see issues, and solve them. And again, the right channel to get that done is critical. The next two, so the first one is being able to create goals. So like we just had our leadership team meeting this past week. Everyone came in town, and what we do there, you have your vision, so you have where you're going, which is say in the next 5 years, 3 years. But then what so many people do, like human nature, is we dream big, but we don't make progress towards hitting those goals. So the purpose here is it's called traction. So you create 90-day goals, and they're smart. So they're smart goals. So they're very specific, they're measurable, they're actionable, they're results oriented, and they're time bound. So for example, if I was to say, "Hey Andrew, I want to go lose 20 pounds." Okay, but like that's a great dream. But instead I would say, "I want to lose 5 pounds in 12 weeks. Here is what I'm going to do to achieve that." So now you can keep me accountable. You can check in 2 weeks and say, "Well, where are you at?" And it'll be obvious if at 10 weeks, I'm still dreaming about losing 5 pounds and I haven't made traction. So really important to create those goals to achieve the bigger vision. And then the last part is just having repeatable processes. So especially as you become a bigger organization, you have various departments in a company, and what you'll find is what you don't want to see is 12 people in the same function solving the same problem differently. What you would instead want to see is the team and maybe the leader of that team saying, what is the best process? So what does everyone do really well? How do we create that as a standardized process so that everyone can do the golden standard continuously? And when you can do all of this at scale, it is so easy to just like continue to be on that boat. My job, I say as a CEO, is to see what's on the outside of the boat. So what's going to give us friction and to remove that. And then everyone else in the boat, their job is just do what needs to happen to get us there. But every single person on the boat has an important role in us achieving our vision. So we can't do that if there are 5 people not doing their jobs. Like that that slows us down from winning. And I'm all about winning, but I want everyone to win with me. It's on my team.
I like it a lot. I think I appreciate the very thorough explanation. And I think I was kind of through my head thinking like, where are the holes in this? And I didn't find any. So I think it feels like a very accountable structure to ensure you're moving in the direction you want to be moving in.
And it applies to any business. It applies to like relationships, like almost everything. Like there's nothing complicated about those principles. And if you can do that, like even when you're raising kids, like it's almost the same thing. Like you just need to be thoughtful and disciplined and have a vision and keep everyone accountable. And then like it's just easy. It's easy to win.
So when was this that you kind of spoke to your
The competitor
friend?
I think it was in either late 2020 or early 2021, probably 2020. And, it takes a long time. I don't know what, it took us like a half a year to roll it out because this is like a different way of living your life. This is like transforming and being thoughtful and using different, principles that you didn't use before. But it is so much easier now for us to be able to hire people, retain people, because everyone wants to be part of something, but it's hard to be part of something that isn't defined.
Well said. So, 2020, that's right when you had stepped into the CEO role, no?
Yeah, no, this was
Right.
one of those big moves. So, I was really fortunate when I became CEO. At that point, I had been doing sales. I had been managing our operations. So I was I was the acting CEO, but I was also the operating COO because my dad at that point was like, I think I was probably in my early 30s. I just had my third kid. He was like, you can't be a CEO. He was like, and actually I used to talk to the Wall Street Journal a lot at this point. One of the journalists sent me a collage of all of our competitors and me because I was like, oh yeah, like the board's talking about making me CEO. And he came back and he said, all of your competitors are middle-aged white men. And he showed them to me. And he said, do you really think that you would be an adopted CEO in this space? Like, has your board really thought about this? Because I can just see you not being accepted and you're going to stand out. And I was like, I hear you. I obviously don't look like the rest of them, but like, so what? Like, let's change things. And here's my proven record. So I didn't have to, I had to prove myself internally, but I was actually lucky that externally we were getting the momentum of like, why not?
Attention freight brokers and 3PLs, Greenscreens.ai is transforming how freight professionals price and quote freight. With AI-powered pricing and real-time market intelligence, Greenscreens delivers accurate, reliable predictions to help stay competitive in a constantly shifting market. Whether managing spot rates or long-term contracts, Greenscreens empowers brokers to quote with confidence and boost profitability, removing the guesswork from freight pricing strategies. Trusted by over 220 brokerages, Greenscreens is leading the way in the future of freight pricing. And now there's Illuminate, Greenscreens' latest product designed to shine a light on deeper freight market insights. Illuminate provides unparalleled visibility into spot and contract freight trends, giving users a clearer view of pricing fluctuations and market conditions to inform smarter, more profitable decisions. Visit greenscreens.ai/thefreightpod and discover how Greenscreens and Illuminate can help win more business more profitably. I've known you for now 37 minutes, but I have a feeling I can say with confidence that seeing that, whatever the journalist sent you, whether it was a graph or a picture, or the data points, really, that lit a fire under your ass more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of people saying no and then me getting the chance to prove them wrong.
Yep, you and I are very similar in that regard.
Because it's like I think we're probably around the same age. Yes, like we are younger, but so what? Like we have innovative ideas. We'll work hard. We'll prove ourselves. And like the best thing I did was I lost a lot. And every one of those losses was great learning opportunities for me. So yeah, like put me back on a coach. Like that's what I would say. Like,
Put me in, coach.
yeah, give me a chance. And it's been a great roller coaster. Great ups, great downs, but learn from every one of them.
How did you get your father over the hump to finally say, okay, yeah, I think it's you?
He was definitely the hardest. And the truth is, first he just came in and he said, if you can do this, and he gave me set measurables, then it's yours. So then I did that. And I did better than he wanted. And I was like, all right, like that's it. You're out, I'm in. And he really was so against it. Like the day I became CEO was not a happy day for him. He was proud of me, but he was still like he felt like I was taking his role and kicking him out. But ultimately, he saw that it was the right thing for the business. And to be truthful, he had a health scare around that time, and I said to him, "There's no way that you can expect me to take over like what needs to be done with the family, and run a business at the same time. I've proven myself. The board has the vote. Like everyone is saying yes. Even my older brother at that point, who was like filmmaker CEO, was like, why isn't she CEO? So he relinquished control.
Was your brother involved in the business or no?
Yes. So he's an interesting guy. He's a poker player. So he's won world poker tournaments and really
Oh, wow.
smart. But a different person, like different personality than me. He is a really, really smart problem solver. And like you give him a complex problem and he just like solves it like this. So he's always been in the engineering side. He's in charge of our entire engineering team now. He came in, figured out how to code, and really stood up our business intelligence platform in a way that was really forward thinking at that point. I mean, we were talking about analytics in 2011, before it was second nature. And so he's been at the company, and he at first was like, no way Hannah's taking my spot. He's like, I'm the older son. Like, that is my blood-born right. And then he was like, there's no way I want to be CEO. And like, hey, Dad, like, you're not really a CEO. Just like, give it to her, because then we can hire a COO. And then she can actually, do more sales, do more client success. And I have to also run the business.
So, as you said, you stick out like a sore thumb in that environment as the kind of young female CEO. And I'm curious if we could talk a little bit about that in terms of what was that experience like being like, did you feel like you ever dealt with more challenges than maybe the middle-aged white male CEO would have dealt with?
Like, sure, but it always to me been a positive, because the way I always say it is when you walk into a room and you're in a business meeting and let's just say it's you and you're talking to a middle-aged white person, your expectation from them is set high, because you're like, you deserve to be there. I'm ready for this conversation. When it's me across from you, the bar is actually lower, because you're like, like, okay, like let's see what she has to say. So that just means like the initial expectations for me versus like my competitors was lower, which means when we were able to have a conversation, it was able to go higher. So like I always think it worked to my favor. And it was like the David versus Goliath, the story, because like everyone was just like, wow, like didn't expect that. What a surprise. And like, I'm excited. And we always had great momentum because people trusted us. We have a great customer list and we have great value. Like our customers are our best salespeople. So it's not like I was preaching something and didn't have the ability to back it up. There were so many people that were like, yeah, like trust what she's saying. I'm advocating for it. So I never felt like it was like a bad thing. I've had my fair share of prospects asking for threesomes, but like they were always like
Wait, what?
yeah,
You can't just
at
drop
trade
that.
shows, like people will be like, oh, like wonder what she's here for, and like that, I always felt like we could quickly nip in the bud and be like, that's not gonna happen here. And once you can get past that, they became some of our best customers.
So, I mean, this is important because it's just not right, obviously. If I go to a trade show, no one's sexualizing me, no one's asking me about threesomes. It's just work.
Maybe.
If well, maybe in their head, I doubt it. But in your world, that's like a real issue. And so I guess as I think about, you know, women who might be listening to this, younger women who are in our industry and wanting to fill a seat like yours one day, what like advice do you have for them for navigating this? Because it's not fair, obviously, right? That women have to deal with that in these settings. And so I'm just curious, like what you would say to someone who wants to get to your seat, but also is dealing with sexualization and different expectations and the other BS that kind of comes with that.
Life's not fair. So it's not like you can't be a victim in this. You just have to understand what it is. So yes, like the downside is I always tell our team, like we have, lots of women who travel, like you can't be drinking, you can't be getting wasted. When people text you, like, our customers or our prospects are texting you, like, keep it G when they go X-rated, like you still back out of it. And like it's like the same thing I would say to someone going to college. And yes, like be conscious, be aware of it. These people are professionals. So it's not like anyone is going to do anything inappropriate for you. They just might make advances. But like always be in control so you can say no. That being said, it's still a great opportunity to be a woman in supply chain because there's not many of us. And I actually think that women are well suited for logistics, better than anyone else, because women can handle dynamic situations, complex situations, fast moving, a lot of complexities really easily. And I always equate this to like me versus my husband with like running our family. We have 3 kids. My kids are like in tons of activities, tons of sports. It is very easy for me to navigate the complexity, to create the schedule, to react when there's, anything that happens that's complex. So like a kid is sick or like something was canceled. When it is just him and there is complexity, he's like, never mind, everyone's staying home. And like same on the weekends. Like you watch like on a Sunday when usually the dads do the birthday parties, you will have, if there are 20 kids, there are 20 dads doing pickup and drop-offs. If it was a birthday party during the week, there will be 5 because moms know how to carpool and we know how to be efficient. So it is an excellent place to be a woman in terms of being in supply chain. And because there's not many women, you shine. Like when you are different, if everyone is wearing a blue shirt and you're wearing an orange shirt, you stand out. And standing out is a good thing because people see you and it gives you the opportunity to be better. So yes, be aware, be smart, make smart decisions, but also like you are fortunate that you stand out and like don't be like it is not a perfect place to be a woman.
That is so well said. It's interesting because I think about it through 2 lenses. One is kind of like the virtuous, this is a problem and like we should attack it and fix it. And I agree, like it is wrong and it is a problem. And like, women shouldn't feel uncomfortable when they go to a trade show. But like you kind of have 2 choices. You can like, well, I guess I shouldn't say 2 choices, but there's 2 different ways to think about it. One is to say like, this is going to be where I spend my energy trying to fix this problem, but it's probably too big of a problem for any one person or team to try to address. Like, how are you going to change the way that men across the board are engaging with you in the setting? Like, that seems like a really overwhelming thing to try to address versus your line of thought, which goes back to kind of focusing on what's within your control. Like you can't control how these guys are going to react, especially because you can just keep swapping them out. Like, yeah, maybe you go to this trade show in New Jersey and you're going to deal with it. And then you go to one in Phoenix. It's completely different men, but it's probably the same behavior. And so like, are you going to change the world and change how all these people react? how all these people behave? Or are you going to realize like, this is the way it is, at least today. I can't change all that today, but what I can do is manage it to the best of my ability and put myself in the best position to win as a result of it. Like you see it as it's an inspiring thing, I think, to look at what is clearly a very negative thing and spin it into a positive. And I think it speaks volumes to, I think, kind of who you are as a person and certainly as a business person, that rather than focus on the negative and focus on and be a victim in all of that, to say, hey, look, it's a good thing. I've got the orange shirt on. They're all wearing blue. I'm different. That means I've got their attention. And in an industry that is becoming more and more commoditized with more and more competition by the day, the ability to stand out is one of the most important things that in being successful, because like just getting someone's attention is so hard in today's industry, in our industry today.
I think that if people can adopt that mentality in life, everything becomes better for them. Just always see the opportunity. Like, every single challenge is an opportunity. And even like in my friend circles, when they text me like, oh my God, my flight was canceled. Like, my life sucks. Like, would you prefer to be on a flight that crashed? Like, no, like your life is fine. Like, move on. You're going to be okay. Take a drive. Like, perspective is so important. And it's also a great leadership quality. Like, people don't want to work for someone who is always complaining and like isn't able to change and adapt and like innovate. And innovation comes from a hard problem that you're trying to solve and you didn't expect to. And like, it is always a good opportunity.
The other thing too, especially as the leader, it is so easy to be negative. It is way easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It's way easier to play victim than to navigate problems and see opportunities. And the bigger issue with that is it's way more infectious. And so like, if you as the leader take this victim mentality, take this negative perspective, it is going to spread like wildfire in your organization, and it's a cancer. So I think like understanding that, especially at the top, that it's your responsibility to frankly set the perspective of the organization. You get to drive that. That's part of driving the vision, is determining how we're going to look at the outside world, how we're going to look at the challenges that are in front of us. And if you're the one who's like, this is a BS industry, every time I go to a conference, I get sexualized. I'm not going to conferences anymore. We don't need conferences. Like, that's a very different perspective to saying, hey, this is an unfair challenge, but life is unfair. And I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. So you're not going to complain about it. We're going to figure out a way to navigate it and be winners through it. Like, that's an
100%.
inspiring thing.
And every second you're in the pity party, you're not thinking about it, solve it. But I still think that going to a trade show as a woman is amazing, because when all the men are walking by and then you see like a person in heels, you're like, what did I just say? Like, is there a woman here? Like, this is great. Like, there is so much more upside than there is downside. You just like, you have to understand the downside to protect it and then like thrive.
So I want to pivot now, and I want to start talking about technology a little bit, because, you know, you're a technology business that was founded in 1996, before, you know, the .com, all that, right? So like 30 years later, AI is the only thing anyone wants to talk about. So what I'm curious about is, what has the evolution of technology looked like in your business, and how have you kind of strategically approached that? Because you know, every company is different, and there are some companies that, you know, TMS examples, there are companies that are still on-prem that, you know, have these clunky technologies that 30 years later, they know it's not great, but they're unwilling to adapt in a way that, like, sometimes it takes a transformational adaptation in which you literally throw out everything you've had and start from scratch to build something better. But that's a scary thing. So I'm just curious, can we talk about that a little bit, and kind of what your technological journey has been like at Intelligent Audit?
Yeah. So really important what you hit on. Your past does not guarantee your future. Your past could give you an upper hand to give you a better future, but you got to work for it and transform. And AI is incredible. What AI allows anyone to do, if you use it effectively, is set yourself up for the future. So the good thing about us as an organization is we've always been technology first. So our approach has always been through, how do you create scalable processes that are configurable and not customizable, where we have really smart problem solvers who are just able to build solutions that, then business people can manage. I was fortunate that I went to a school where I studied finance, but my friends were all really smart computer scientists, which I think is another important lesson. Like, surround yourself by people who are smarter than you. So
And different, smart in a
and
different way.
different, right? So about 6 years ago, or I guess now 7 years ago, because I had my oldest one, I had a bunch of our friends over, and they were at this point. One of them was getting his PhD in computer science, another PhD in physics, and they were talking about AI. So back then it was all about machine learning and deep learning because there was no large language models. So, even back about 7 years ago, we understood what was coming, and we were able to listen to how others were using AI. So, at that point, those two guys that I'm talking about, one of them went out and is now CTO of an insurance company where they actually have a piece of hardware that fits in your car that's able to assess if you're a safe driver. So it does that. So if you think about driving, when you're driving, like, this piece of hardware will move, and sometimes it's because of like a divot in the road or a bump. Other times it's because you're just a bad driver, and it needed the intelligence to be able to take all of these patterns, remove where you are, like, it is just an issue that you did not have control over versus what you have control over, and then take that information to assess if you're a safe driver, and then based on that, create an insurance company. So that was only made possible because of deep learning. I had another friend who we ended up hiring, who at this point was getting his, he was working at UPMC, and his job was to be able to look at people's MRIs and be able to say, every person's liver is different. Mine is different than yours. But within each person's liver and their MRI of their liver, there's consistency. So find me the pattern that is irregular. And when you see that pattern that's irregular, tell me with high confidence if it is fatty liver disease, because that is a disease that is very hard to take a biopsy of and then diagnose and then treat. And if you could do all of that up front, you're saving lives. So I was listening to this, like, in my basement 7 years ago, and I thought to myself, I know we have data that is really well indexed, so our customers can take massive amounts of data and just see it very quickly and use that to make decisions. But what we thought was, right now we have people that are looking through your data and saying, how do we help our customers become smarter? So where is their inefficiency in their supply chain? So the thesis was, can we leverage some type of these machine learning to be able to say, how do I automate the job of our customer success team and instead have AI come in and do that? So we actually hired both of those people for different times. The first one was just like for a couple of months to help us build the initial model. And then the second one, his name is Brian Pollock, Dr. Brian Pollock. He became our head of data science. And the thesis was what I just mentioned. What it really does well is it takes mass amounts of data. Let's just say it's, any type of shipper. Shippers are really complex, and our customers, we take their data across all of their modes globally. So even one customer, you take all of their global data. Globally, they're going to have different processes and different expectations of what their data looks like. So the model has the intelligence to say, give me all of this data. I will slice it into like patterns. And then within each pattern of data, I'm going to create a baseline of expectations. And then as new data flows in, if I couldn't predict that, then it's anomalous. So we started playing around with this 7 years ago, created an alpha product 5 years ago. And what we found was, bad behaviors are there, but what we are actually seeing is a ton of fraud, a ton of technical glitches, and just unexpected consequences. So the fraud is a real problem. It's really easy to intercept carrier APIs, and then actually change the ship to location. So that's happening at scale. But the beauty of all of this is we had AI before people knew what AI is. So we were leveraging it through machine learning, but we've always been focused on what's next. And we've never been scared of what's next. Like, even when we have a process that works great, I'm not scared to be like, could it be better? And if the answer is yes, then guys, let's make it better, because as you become a bigger organization, any squeaky wheel becomes squeakier. So both thinking about AI has been, amazing. The machine learning has been really, really powerful. And it was our first, use of AI, but really it was just a tool that was for our customers. It didn't really help us. ChatGPT has been excellent. So our head of data science became our chief product officer in December, because we used to think about data science and AI differently. And in my head, the future is it's one. Like, if it used to commingle a little bit, I want AI to be part of the way we think in every conversation. And Brian Pollock is now on OpenAI's red team. So OpenAI created ChatGPT. They have engineers across the world. Before they release new products into the world, they have these engineers that actually try and test it to see if there's any malicious content before it gets into the hands of potential bad actors, which just allows us to be on the front end of getting access to these kinds of technology. And we now leverage some form of, or not every time, but we think about how do we use either ChatGPT or we're using AI for engineers. How do we use it everywhere? So it's not just our engineers, but it's our operations. It's rate loading. It's rate auditing. We have an advisory board, and a lot of our shippers said that they have teams of people across their entire executive team that get constantly trained on AI. So they taught us that we need to have every group at our company and have their division heads say, where can our teams use AI? Even if it's just prompt generation or workflow automation. But how do we continuously think about AI empowering either us, our customers, or the carriers to be more effective? So the way I equate it now, most simply, is we've had screwdrivers for a long time. And screwdrivers get things done. They work. But imagine when you get a drill and then you're like, holy shit, had this been out there for so long? So now my only challenge to the team is, let's make sure that everyone has a drill with a battery. I don't want them to have a drill and someone's like, well, we can't get this because of XYZ. No, give them a drill, make sure it has a battery, and then give them a tool belt. So when they're up on the ladder, they're not coming up and down and coming up and down, but make them hyper efficient. And AI is just so powerful to everyone, but you have to embrace it.
At Mola, we built a great company, and I'm proud of the work we did. We knew when to ask for help, and sometimes that meant going outside of our own company. I'm proud we built an ecosystem of trusted partners like Metaphora. When we needed differentiated industry expertise in business consulting or technology services, we looked at Peter, Ryan, and the team at Metaphora. They've consistently delivered value in the transportation and logistics space for over a decade for mid-market and enterprise brokers, for shippers, carriers, private equity, and freight tech companies. At Mola, we use Metaphora to solve problems we simply couldn't on our own. Metaphora is the only partner you should trust to help you win, whether that's doing ops and tech diligence, growing revenue, optimizing spend, or selecting and building software. Go check them out at metaphora.net. That's METAFORA.net. Have you dealt with headwinds or challenges in getting the team to buy in or adopt this kind of change? I mean, not that it. Let me just ask that. I'm curious there.
Yes, always. Human nature, we've evolved to hate change. Change has killed us in the past. So we hate change. But it's so easy to prove. Like literally, it is a screwdriver versus a drill. Like it empowers you. And we've always embraced technology, and we've always proven to our people that it's not going to replace them. It's going to make them a superpower. And we're fortunate that we've grown so much year over year where they have seen we've never fired a team of people because we could automate their jobs. Like if anything, we'll automate it. We'll use AI to answer emails. And now those people are doing more challenging tasks. So I think you have to prove, you have to have trust, and then you have to show them why it's going to make them able to do more work and not taking work out of their plate. And once you have that and you can use it, like it is so powerful.
What do you feel like has been one of the best examples where these new tools, the drills that you've now employed with your team relative to the screwdriver, has actually like made an impact? Like, are there examples in your mind of like, we completely changed this because of it?
I mean, two things. First, I'll go like technical because my head's always on the engineering side. Our engineers can now get information so much easily from our business team because, we have prompts in Jira that as long as you create a prompt that is repeatable in nature, then it's easy to be able to take that, partner that, or, integrate it with GitHub and integrate it with the actual code to be able to really create products so much quicker. And the engineers can now work on more exciting work a lot faster. And people like to be challenged. And if you give them a tool where they can be better and they can win more, they're happy. On more of the operations side, like our most entry-level position, we used to get a lot of carriers emailing us saying like, when am I going to get paid? Or like, why are these invoices stacked? And it was a very highly repetitive job. And, we automated it because we were able to create this product called Polly because Dr. Brian Pollock, so the name is after him, Polly. And a carrier sends an email in. Emails are very unstructured in nature. It's not going to be consistent each time, and you can't force thousands of carriers to email you in a structured way. But that's where, large language models actually do really well. So they can take unstructured emails with, unstructured formats and respond back to carriers within 60 seconds with what they want to hear, which means all of those people that used to do that can now go up level and they're now answering more complicated work. So it's been a win-win. Carriers get answers quickly. And those people who, are great people and great assets to our company are now being able to be challenged more, and we're investing in them more so that they can, be great at IA, but also be great outside of IA. If they decide that they want to go somewhere else, they now have more, they've been trained to do more than entry-level positions. So it's a massive win-win.
I love that. I'm curious if there are any kind of unlocks or new opportunities, like big new opportunities that you see for intelligent audit as a result of some of this change, or just in general, like as you think about the years ahead, like where are you taking the business in terms of growing it or building it beyond what it's doing today?
Yeah, I mean, it's great time for the question because we just had our team here, and it's a lot of asking the question of looking at all of our processes and not being scared to break and change what's working well to think about the future. So, there's a lot of processes that we do today that we know could be done better. And the question that I asked our team is, could anyone off the street who understands logistics get this done very quickly? And if not, what are the hurdles and what has to be true if that was the case? So if you were to put, your 5 problems down and I was to come back to you and say, those were solved by the end of this year, what does that mean we did? And first, that empowers them to really think creatively to solve a solution, but it also empowers us to really think about what's next. So where the business is today is different where it was 5 years ago. I mean, we were very lucky that we transformed before COVID, or we would not have a business. And I think the same about the future. Right now we do a lot for our customers. We load the rates, we audit the data, we configure new carriers, which is fine. But what if we made it easier for carriers to do that themselves, or for our customers to do that themselves? Because I think the future in our industry is more self-serve. Our people will always be here, but I think shippers want to do more by themselves. And I equate that to like banking. I used to have to go down to a JP Morgan branch to do just about everything. And now I can do so much more on my phone. And I'm empowered to do that. And like, I don't want to have to call my banker to be like, hey, can you move the funds here so I can invest here? Like, I want to do it all by myself. And like, that doesn't mean I don't need the bank, but it means that like, I am just empowered to be so much more nimble, where I actually need, and I rely on that tool so much more. So from our perspective, I think the future is going to be a lot more self-served. I think that, now if it's, 70% us doing work for our customers, I think it'll get down to 15%, where, they want to be able to buy a tool, have all their carriers send their invoicing in, and just really easy to create cost allocation rules, to get the analytics to become smarter, to configure all of the complexity of audit rules. And that's where we're doubling down. And it's a lot of having to teach people of, yeah, it works great today. Yeah, we have great margins today. But just because we're doing great today in this environment doesn't mean that we're going to have a chance of winning in the future. Like, we need to think about what that future is going to be and then say, how are we also winning then? And yeah, we'll look a lot different, but you got to innovate.
Is there any fear or risk that I 100% align with what you just said and appreciate it, and I think it makes a ton of sense. But I'm curious if there's any fear or risk of margin erosion, or you lose the ability to charge maybe as much as you do because you're giving them tools to do a lot more themselves. So like what used to be a very kind of exhaustive process of configuring carriers that you had to do for them. Now, okay, you've created a very innovative tool that allows you to take some of your work out of it and them to do it a little easier themselves. And then is the risk like they say like, okay, well, I shouldn't have to pay you so much if I can, because do you get what I'm
It's
kind
fair.
of alluding to?
And it's yeah, I would assume that our pricing goes down. I mean, we'll always have a high margin because we'll always be able to show ROI and value. And as long as we can do that, then I do expect that our costs would go down. I mean, they're not going to like go down in half, but if we don't need to have as many people, why not reduce them? And that would just make us more competitive. And we're really lucky as an organization. If you look at almost all of our competitors, they're all owned by private equity firms. And their focus is, how do I reduce cost and, increase EBITDA, which is reduced investment in the technology. So we don't have outside investors that control us. So we're still family owned. We still have complete control, which means we can build for the future and we can make big risks now. And we're not up against people who are trying to cut costs. Like, we will lose margin in the short term, hiring data scientists and doing what needs to happen, because we are confident that in the long run, this will be the more viable business option. And we'll always have both. I'm sure that there will be some people who just need the people. They don't want to insource it, but we want to be able to accommodate both.
Well said. So as we start to wrap up here, I want to kind of understand how you think about the future, and what in your mind what does Intelligent Audit look like in 5 years?
Different than what it looks like today, for sure. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. I know what I'm hoping I know what the technology looks like directionally. But I really think that AI is going to be pretty transformative in terms of what we're doing as an organization. That being said, I mean, I'm sure still be a freight analytics company. We're going to exist to be able to help our customers take mass amounts of data, reduce the complexity, and help them be able to operate efficiently and be smarter about it. And, hopefully we have a great team, the people who want to show up every day, they're being challenged. They're forced to innovate. They're, overcoming tough challenges. I want our most junior people to become our best leaders, and I want to make sure that we're giving them the platform to do that. And there's a roller coaster. So there will be ups, there will be downs, but I'm here for it. And that's life.
How about for you personally? 5 years from now, what will be different? How will you evolve or change as a person?
It's a great question. I got young kids, so they're 9, 7, and 5. So I think I'll still be in New York. And I'm really lucky that I have a team now where, when I first started doing this, I was on the road every day, different place every day. When COVID hit and I had to be at home, and at that point I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, I remember my son saying to me, "Why are you home?" And because I was home the third day in a row. And I was like, "Hey, kid, I live here. This is my house." And he just wasn't used to seeing me. So, it's all about balance. I want to be doing more with them, but I'm very lucky now. Love to play tennis. I don't have the bald head issue, so that's good. But I also don't have the issue where people care to see my footage. So maybe people will be trying to get my footage in a few years, but I don't know. I'm here for it. Whatever it is, hopefully I'm being challenged. Hopefully I'm having fun. Hopefully the business is growing and doing well, but whatever it is, it'll be fun.
Well, listen, as we come up on time here, I just want to thank you. This has been a really exceptional interview. I think, I've known you for an hour and 15 minutes, but I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I think our audience will too. It's funny because I came into this with the intent of diving deep into freight audit and pay, because it's just not something I've spent a ton of time on, and my audience hasn't heard a ton about it. And this was more like a master class on business. I really think it was. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm sure my audience will appreciate it. And I guess any parting thoughts for our audience before we wrap it up?
It's been an honor watching you in your career. I mentioned this before we went on camera, but the industry that we are in, you're very highly respected. You've done so much. So many investors have always kind of proven you as the one that everyone wants to emulate. So I know that might not be the best situation now, but you've done exceptionally well, and I think everyone is excited to see what's next for you. So thank you for inviting me on. It's been an honor. It's been a great time, and I can't wait to talk to you next.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
And we'll see how much hair you have then.
Hopefully none. To our audience, we'll see you next week. Thank you.